135th Durham Miners Gala, and the rain has now stopped, so we're okay. This fantastic expression of working class culture, the biggest working class cultural event anywhere in Europe. You should all be proud to be here.
Yes!
And proud of the work done by the Durham Miners Association in keeping this wonderful tradition going and growing, but also remembering, as Alan has done at the beginning, those that went before us. I can't be here without thinking of the great work done by Davy Hopper and Davy Guy in developing this festival. And in their memory, let's give all the support we can to this to make sure it gets bigger and better in the future. Others have remembered those that have gone before, and over the past year, we've lost some wonderful people. I join Alan in paying tribute to Myrtle Macpherson. She was a hero of the strike in 84-85. She fed the miners, as did so many other miner support groups all over the country. And you know what? That unity that developed in mining and non-mining communities of ensuring that the miners' families were fed when the Tory government was trying to starve them back to work. That message of solidarity will never, ever go away. There was a young man I met during that bitter struggle of 84-85, a young man who brought wisdom, philosophy and entertainment in the same measure, who sadly died of cancer this year. Can we say, in memory of the great Jeremy Hardy, thank you for all you did for our movement. And I'm sorry to tell you that a couple of weeks ago, a young man or youngish man who many of you would probably not have heard of, who made films for our movement and our party. And what he said to me when he came into my office was, Jeremy, I want to give a voice to the working class in the films that I make. And he made that wonderful party broadcast for the Labour Party, Our Town. Can we remember Simon Baker and what he did as well? There are so many injustices that happened during the miners' strike. The way in which the police behaved, the way in which the government behaved in trying to starve miners back to work, the way in which the media behaved, and so much more. But I just give you this very clear commitment. Day one of a Labour government will investigate all grief, and we will get to the bottom of the truth on that matter. And there's going to be a few other investigations into Shrewsbury and a number of other cases, because I salute those that stood up for Hillsborough. I salute those that have fought for justice. It's never an easy road. But I tell you this, our government, and it will be our government, will get to the truth of these injustices to stop them ever happening again. I want to say thanks. Thank you for the support and comradeship of many, many colleagues and friends from the trade unions, the Labour Party that are on the platform today, and many colleagues who are on the Labour front bench or in the Parliamentary Labour Party for the great work that they do day in, day out in this Parliament, the European Parliament and others. It's invidious to call out individual names except one. How could I possibly speak on this platform without saying a huge thank you to somebody who is a true hero of our movement, Dennis Skinner.
Take the cover on them.
Dennis has been that voice Dennis has been that voice in Parliament the Tories always try to silence. You can't silence Dennis. Some of them are very slow learners. They never will. Dennis, thank you for all you do and the inspiration you give. Our party is about change, and it's also about changing our party and the way that we do things. When I had the honour of becoming leader of this party 4 years ago, I was determined that we would change the way we do things. That's why I was very proud when we finally set up our community organising unit, and those community organisers are working to empower communities all around this country to win those battles over schools, over hospitals, over housing, over local issues of justice. And I'm delighted that they are working with Unite and other unions in trying to bring justice to those who work at Sport Direct, and while they're on with it, the other Mike Ashley enterprise, namely Newcastle United, and the way that he runs that.
Fuck Mike Ashley!
And I say that as an Arsenal fan.
Go on, Jay!
It's all right, I don't want to be divisive anymore. We're in the region that has suffered the worst of the privations that austerity can bring. It's hitting the northeast as hard or harder than any other part of the country. The huge debt we owe to the miners and other industrial workers developed our economy. The area was hit very hard by Thatcher and has been hit very hard by the Tory and Liberal Democrat austerity since 2010. School class sizes are larger, transport investment in this region and spending is much less than London and the South East. Council spending cuts have been greater than almost any other part of the country, and household wealth is half that of London and the South East. That's not to say there aren't poor people in London and the South East. There are, but on a regional basis, this sense of inequality and injustice simply cannot go on. Those cuts in public expenditure, that austerity, what does it lead to? Yes, very obvious poverty, such as rough sleeping, homeless. It also leads to grotesque levels of overcrowding in the private rented sector flats. It leads to a stress on parents, on children, on workers, on students, that leads to the mental health crisis that we have in this country. You cannot separate the mental health crisis from the austerity policies that have imposed on this country. And don't go blaming those brilliant NHS workers who do their best day in, day out to deliver the service that they can. As Dave pointed out, they're in Unison and other unions. I'm a member of Unison. And yes, we will end the privatisation of our public services. Yes, we will end the contracting out of our services. But above all, an incoming Labour government, and I can't wait to start on it, will be one that will end the political choice. And it was a political choice of austerity and the gross inequality that it has brought. Remember, George Osborne and the Liberal Democrats in 2010 did two things in that first budget. One was to slash benefits in the DWP system, and they're still being frozen and slashed. And secondly, to give tax giveaways and tax cuts to the very richest in our society. And ever since then, we have all paid the price for that. The poorest have paid the highest price and the hardest price. The richest have benefited from this government that's been in office for 9 years too long. So it will be a Labour government that will end austerity. It will be a Labour government that will establish a national investment bank. It will be a Labour government that will establish regional investment banks. We won't devolve austerity to different parts of England, Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland. We will empower English regions, Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland by providing with the resources They need to invest in the future they deserve.
Bitches!
And as we develop the north of England through the Crossrail for the north, through the investment strategy and so many other things, I want to just pay a tribute and say thank you to somebody that envisaged the idea of the Northern Way, and that's John Prescott, who sadly is in hospital now, suffering and I hope recovering from a stroke. So can we all wish John Prescott, get well soon, John. We need your voice out on the road again. And John Prescott eats a mean fish and chips when he's out on the road campaigning, I have to tell you. A Labour government will bring into public ownership mail, rail and water. We will do that because they're natural monopolies. We will do that because those that bought them at cut prices under the Thatcher government have bled them dry, exploited them, and it cannot go on any longer.
Energy!
And our model of public ownership will be a democratic one, will be a model where the skills and brilliance of the workers in those industries will come to the fore in the running of them. But it won't just be creating public ownership of those three vital sectors. It will also be about our whole approach. So we take rail, train operating companies into public ownership, but we will also ensure that there is a return to a full, regulated, freely available for older people and young people bus service across the whole country. This nonsense of the breakup of the bus system across the country leaves whole areas with no ability to travel in the evenings at weekends, means young people cannot go anywhere, means the possibility of development of rural economies is nil, because if workers can't get there to work in any enterprises that are set up in those places. Andy MacDonald has done a fantastic job as our Shadow Transport Secretary, and he will deliver a bus service for the whole country. On May the 1st, I was proud on behalf of the Labour Party to propose a motion to Parliament that we declare a climate emergency. That was agreed by Parliament. The Tories did not dare vote against it. Now you might think, well, that's okay, that's fine. What happens next? I tell you this, look at the issues of damage to our environment, of damage to our world. Look at the importance of the Paris Climate Change Accords, but also look at the effects on our children of air pollution, of loss of habitat and open space. It's working class kids in working class communities who lose some of their lung capacity before they're 5 years old because of the foul air they're breathing. We have got to change course. We've got to change course rapidly. But in doing that, I'm proud of the work that Becky Long-Bailey, Barry Gardner and Sue Hayman have done in our shadow cabinet in bringing people together so that the green industrial revolution won't be a tax giveaway to the rich. It won't be the enrichment of those that don't deserve to be enriched. It will be the creation of jobs all across the country, particularly here in the northeast. And I'm looking to believe that 400,000 jobs in green energy and green industries can be created. High-skilled, well-paid, unionised jobs where people will be proud to be working. But there's so much more a Labour government will do. An education system is obviously crucial. It was the working class communities in the 19th century that demanded the right to free education, finally achieved sort of in the 1870 Education Act that set up the principle of free primary schools. But there's always been issues about payment in education, and gradually the market has seeped its way back more and more into our education service, at the nursery end and at the tertiary end. Well, I want to lead a Labour government that will bring in a national education service. Our great legacy will be a national education service that will ensure the principle of education as a right, will replace the idea that education is a commodity to be bought and sold. We will provide 30 hours free nursery places for all children. We will provide free school meals for all primary school children, because hungry children cannot learn. And we will ensure that there are good quality, appropriately, decently paid apprenticeships available for all those who want to undertake them, just as much as we will end university fees for those that go to university. And we'll recognise, as has been said already on this platform, that public sector workers are doing an incredible job. Many doing 2 or 3 jobs because of the cuts that have taken place in local government, in health, and so many other areas. So the chaos of privatisation and of outsourcing of services, surely the Carillion collapse should be an example to us all of the dangers of PFI, outsourcing, and all that goes with that. In-house, run by the public, for the public, is the axiom with which the next Labour government will operate. And we will bring social justice to this country. I am fed up with seeing children going to school hungry, with old people trying to survive and unable to get the social care that they deserve. A whole generation of waspy women who've been denied justice. I am fed up with a country that goes on like that. So it will be a Labour government that will invest in our future of good quality, high-skilled industrial jobs, of good quality public services, but of also the principle that everybody in our society deserves the support they need. Nothing breaks my heart more than to see the number of young people excluded from school because of an over-competitive environment dominated by league tables, which pushes some of them aside. So, with Angela Rayner, I was very proud to say we will end the Commission on Social Mobility and replace it with a Commission on Social Justice, because that is what we are about. Now, there are 2 people that are parading around the country speaking to very small audiences, both of whom want to become the next Prime Minister. Now, I don't know how much stomach you've all got to examine their policies or watch their debates, but it goes something like this. I want the job, you want the job. No, it's mine, no, it's yours. No, don't be so mean to me, it's mine. I've got it as a birthright. No, it's my birthright. No, it's mine, mine. I really wonder about these people, actually. I think aptitude tests ought to take place. And then it gets serious when they start competing to the audience they have chosen about who is going to give the most away in tax breaks at the top end, and who is funding their campaigns and with whom they choose to consort. So when they compete with each other about tax giveaways of £10 billion to the hedge funds, to the multinational corporations, knowing full well that those tax breaks will not be invested in jobs and services in this country, but will find their way by some miraculous process to a tax haven somewhere. I ask you the question, would you rather a tax break of 10 billion for the very richest in our society, or a debate about where we spend 10 billion on mental health, on social services, on education, on housing, on jobs, on job creation.
Put it in our pocket.
When Theresa May stood up outside Downing Street and said she was going to tackle the burning injustices, well, Theresa, they're all still there, and the flame is getting bigger. But I tell you what, the flame of resistance to the burning injustices is getting bigger as well, and burning very brightly.
Fuck the Tories.
And then you look at the language that Johnson and Hunt use, and the way in which they approach the President of the United States, Donald Trump. And they offer something quite sinister in this respect. Theirs is a no-deal Brexit. Theirs is a cliff-edge Brexit, which we will oppose to protect jobs and rights in this country. But in their no deal, there is a deal in offer, and that deal is a trade deal with Donald Trump and the USA. And that trade deal would lead to deregulation of rights at work, consumer rights, environmental protections, would lead to what's called investor protection, where a multinational company has its rights protected against any new legislation an incoming government might want to bring in. You think this is fantasy? Look at what's happening around the world with the power, the unaccountable power of multinational companies. But the big prize for Trump and his friends is our National Health Service. They want to bring American healthcare companies in to run our National Health Service. Well, I quite simply say this: we've had quite enough of outsourcing and privatisation under a Tory government. We will reverse that, and our NHS is not for sale. Our NHS was a product of our trade union movement, of the miners of South Wales, of the miners all over this country. The principle that you care for somebody irrespective of who they are, what wealth they've got, or anything else. That principle will never leave us, and we will never allow the NHS to be destroyed. So that is what their agenda is. The Gala is an international event, and I think it's absolutely fantastic that you had Maria Fernandez Espinosa speaking to us this afternoon, and I say, gracias para su mensaje o su primaria. That means thank you for your message and your wisdom. Because her work in the ILO and the work of our unions in the ILO is very important. The International Labour Organization, created in 1919 as a form of international solidarity, because we need that solidarity in the face of unaccountable power of multinational corporations. Trade union rights matter in Durham, matter in Newcastle, matter in Manchester, in London, but they also matter in Mumbai, in Bangladesh, and other parts of the world as well. And that is why that sense of our solidarity is so important. Now, across Europe, there is a big political debate going on about austerity, about the economic model that's to be followed. Do we allow those that promote free market economics and austerity to thrive, or do we stand up against them? Where we give way to those that want to impose austerity and free market economics on us, what then happens is a blame culture develops. The rise of the far right and racists across Europe is a very, very serious threat indeed. They, the racists, decided in the 1920s that all the causes of the economic problems of the German working class were because of Jewish people in Germany. They practiced and preached and acted disgusting anti-Semitic comments, campaigns, and put people in concentration camps and ended up killing them, murdering them in their millions. That is where racism leads you to. So I simply say this: our unity of people all across the world and all across the continent and all across our linguistic faith and differences gives us a unity and a strength that can bring about that fair, decent and just world. But if you go down the road of blaming somebody because they're a different colour, speak a different language or a different faith, you're shortchanging those who went before us and you're destroying the hopes of those that will come after us. The only reply to racists is one of love and unity. When a far-right racist drove into a crowd walking home from the mosque in the street where I live, next door to my house, and killed a man, the response of the local community was, "Our love is greater than your hatred. Our strength is greater than yours." So we will not allow or tolerate in any shape or form whatsoever anti-Semitism, Islamophobia or racism anywhere in our party or our movement or our society. And we will face the issues that exist all across this world with the humanity that we have. When the far right preach hatred towards refugees, as one who's visited many refugee camps and talked to refugees all over the world, I simply say this: there is no more humbling experience than talking to somebody in a refugee camp who simply wants to survive in order to contribute to our society. Don't denigrate them. They're human beings who are suffering from the wars, the environmental ravages that exist all across this world. 65 million people deserve more than just being a statistic, and it's up to all of us when we're in government to work with other governments to look at the problems that have caused people to flee in the first place and support them in a humanitarian and decent way, not like the way the language, as Shami explained, that David Cameron used to describe the visit Diane Abbott and I made to refugee camps in Calais. I want to lead a Labour government that will, on the world stage, be part of the solutions, that will strive for peace, for justice and human rights, which will measure our achievements by the improvements of rights and living standards, elimination of poverty at home, and the improvement of human rights, living standards and environmental conditions across the world. We are not going to be in a government like this one that will fuel the war in Yemen by pouring bombs into Saudi Arabia to be dropped on the people of Yemen. Any more than we will join in Donald Trump's march to bring the danger of a war in Iran ever closer. I want peace, I want justice, and I want human rights in Iran and every other country across that region. Now, this past few weeks, you've seen the most incredible level of media hysteria directed at the Labour movement and the Labour Party. It is extraordinary, even by the excessive standards of some of those papers. Our movement is under attack day in, day out. Why? Is it because they individually don't like some of us? Maybe. I try to be emollient to people, I try to be polite, but maybe some people find that a totally horrible, dangerous and despicable thing to do. So I'm coping with that possibility.
You beautiful human.
But what they're really on about is the programme we offer. The programme that Labour offers of redistribution, of power and wealth, of investment to bring about a decent future, of an end to the privileges of the few in order to advance the cause and the need of the many. That is what they're upset about. I want to lead a government that will transform society, that will end the injustices to the poor and those with disabilities, and will offer real hope to the next generation. I'm fed up with economists saying to a younger generation, sorry, your parents' generation, they spent all the money, they spent it on health, they spent it on pensions, they spent it on education. There's no more left. Take out private health insurance, take out private pension insurance, take out private education insurance for your own children, our grandchildren, because the public provision will not be there in the future. Public services, public investment and public spending are socialism in action. They're sharing wealth from those that can afford it to those that need it. Taking from those that can well afford to pay a bit more to those that need that degree of help. And so they come after us individually. I don't care what they say about me, I'm not interested. But when they come after people who cannot reply, that is what makes me very, very angry indeed. When they attack those in work for the job they're trying to do, and when they attack individuals within our movement. And so I join with others in sending a message: get well soon and good luck. Jenny Formby, you do not deserve what the media have said and done about you.
And fucking Tom Watson.
A new Prime Minister will be in office, hopefully for a very short time, the week after next. A general election could come very, very soon.
That's why
they will throw the money, they will throw the media, they will throw the abuse at all of us. But we will be out there in every street, in every road, in every town, in every village, in every city. We will be campaigning over the whole country with a message that's something very, very different. Nobody is going to say during the next general election campaign, there is no choice. There is a choice. You go down the road of austerity, inequality, poverty, injustice, and a sort of faux patriotism by Boris Johnson or Jeremy Hunt, or the different road, the road that was fought for and envisaged by those that founded our trade union movement, that brought about health and education and housing and all the great social improvements and the Environment and Human Rights Acts and so on, and create that society of decency, of well-being, of mutual support and solidarity, so that our children grow up not in the desperation of wondering how they will get a job, how they'll find somewhere to live, how they'll bring up their own children in the future, but the certainty that we've created that sense of community that will care for all and invest for the good of all. I urge you, do not allow our movement to be divided. Do not allow our message to be distracted. Keep your eyes on the prize of getting rid of this government, the prize of a Labour government dedicated to the redistribution of power and wealth in our society. Durham, thank you.
Weird.